Well, because, and I'm thinking that this maybe ties into something that is, one of those key things we were talking about, which is the importance of optimal blood flow at the smallest level.
Yes.
Right? Do you care to elaborate on that? Because I'll
Yes. Yeah. Well, when I first was learning about it, I was shocked that I hadn't learned it before, because I've been deeply involved with health and wellness for as many years as I have. But we have 65,000 miles of blood vessels in our body, from the tiniest to the largest. So when we think of the largest, we think of, if you have a blockage in an artery, they cut it open, fix it, sew it back shut, right? We can see those, we can work on those. But 99% of our blood has to flow through the tiniest vessels in order to feed our organs. And those vessels are so tiny, you can put 200 of them inside one human hair. So I know, pretty darn small. They're called size 4 micron. And to put that in perspective, our red blood cells are size 7 micron, almost double the size of that smallest vessel. So they have to squish down to fit through. And it's not just a matter of squishing down and fitting in. They have to move along the pathway to reach the end point, which is your organs. All of those little tiny vessels wrap around and support and feed all of your organs. So if the blood can't get through the end point to feed your organs don't receive your nutrients and your oxygen, and then can't swap out the metabolic waste and the junk and the inflammation it needs to get rid of. So if those tiniest ones aren't working, you're slowly dying inside your own body. And so over time, issues start to pop up: type 2 diabetes, inflammation, heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, all kinds of things. And let's face it, no one wakes up with heart disease. No one wakes up a diabetic. It's a long, slow slide. And oftentimes people don't feel anything wrong until they have a sudden incident, like sudden death with a heart attack. And they're like, oh, there was no heart disease in the family, and he just had a heart attack. Well, there was a long, slow slide before that. And so we actually now can see inside those vessels. And that's the beauty of it. It's 30 years of science. Amazing. Yeah, we can see inside them to see what's wrong. And before there's no tiny tools. There's no little tiny tools to work on those little vessels. So we have a supplement that actually does all of the repair work. And so how lovely to be able to see inside the body at that smallest level, non-invasively, like putting a thermometer under your tongue. That's how simple it is. And then we have a comprehensive report, and we know what to tackle. And oftentimes we head things off at the pass. And that's where all the active listening that you teach comes in, because you need to be your own advocate. You have to listen.
Yeah, that's, I was just thinking, like, so for all of you folks that are on a recovery journey, whatever that recovery journey might look like, whether it's, maybe not a shopping recovery journey so much per se, doesn't mean you don't need this, but if we're looking at long-term substance abuse, 10, 20, 30 years of alcohol use, even 5 years of alcohol use and or misuse, but also food addiction, et cetera. When we're in a recovery process, whether that is complete abstinence, which with food, we know we can't have complete abstinence, but if we're either in that complete abstinence or we're in like this sober conscious kind of space, regardless, there is systemic healing. And I'm talking about systemic physical body, right? Like everybody talks about, not feeling well, whatever, brain fog, yada, yada, but literally everything, to include your skin, needs to heal. It has been taxed. It has not been getting the attention that it needs, because your brain hasn't been functioning at the level that it needs to function at. And guess what? Your brain needs to heal as well. So there's just, it's a whole system. And so if we're not willing to take a full recovery journey, and we're just simply saying, well, I'm gonna stop binging on sugar, or I'm gonna put down the alcohol. Look at me playing with things on my desk. I'm gonna put down the alcohol and my recovery journey is over. No, it's not. We have a healing process that we have to go through, and it's about as long as it took us to get to that bad level, because we have to allow that healing for that repair. And we have to be willing to actively listen to what our body, heart, mind, soul is telling us that we need. Anyway, I don't want to get off on a big old sermon, but it's about making choices that move you towards optimal health. And one of the things that is necessary is self-care.
Yes. Yes. And I think people are much more aware of that these days, don't you think? It's kind of, you know, people are beginning to recognize that and seek it out and desire it. And it's like you said, it's a long journey. So be patient, give yourself grace and mercy, right? It's very important to be merciful with yourself, because oftentimes as individuals, we are the least gracious and least merciful with ourselves. We expect something that took a long time to get to where it's at, all of a sudden be fixed and move along. And that's just not the case.
Well, I think everybody likes the whole instant gratification, right? Like, think about our cell phone. Heaven forbid you don't answer a text message within the first 30 seconds that it arrives. You know, heaven forbid you wait till after dinner to look at social media to answer any direct messages, or, you know, poke around on, I don't know, videos and reels. Like, why is that so active during the day? I find it so fascinating that this world of business professionals has time throughout the day to be on social media. It's like, well, I don't get that. I don't understand, but they can't not do it. It's like, oh, I have to check. Well, do you? I don't know. I do morning and at night. Boom. Yeah. Usually the morning there's not too much because I just checked at night, but right. But anyway, you know, it's about slowing down. It's not about instant gratification. It's about, you know, effective action planning.
Yes. Yes. And I always tell people, I always tell people, keep in mind, you get to do this for yourself. This is not a punishment to get better. This is a blessing. And I always tell them, you know, love yourself and say to yourself, I get to do this for myself. I am this valuable, and I'm valuable to those around me. And I have people to speak into and to love, but I need to be functioning optimally in order to be effective for that. So I need to love myself through the valleys and celebrate myself on the peaks, and be patient, but make good choices. Of course, you know, improvement comes with good choices. You have to change habits and set goals and make good choices.
Yes. And yes. I was just thinking that with self-care, right? There's different levels of self-care, right? So we have, and I'm always talking about, you know, the 6 primary categories that create whole health, right? And I'll mess it up because I just put my own self on the spot, but we have social, spiritual, physical, emotional, environmental, and see, I can never.
It'll come to us.
It'll come to me. But you know, we have to do self-care in all of those categories. and I think, I mean, I know that I have ways that I do self-care for myself on a, you know, cognitive emotional level. But when we're talking about a physical level of emotional health, right? Like, that's something that you're talking about. And I think if anybody was truly listening to what I just said, right? Like, very fertile listening, guys. Not even just active, very fertile listening, and really wanting to hear this and actually, you know, grow from it, is the physical self-care that we can do for our emotional well-being. And I'm very interested to hear your take on that, because what you're talking about, this blood flow at the smallest level, and really what it does, you know, it does have an emotional impact. It will.
Hugely so.
But from a physical standpoint, which is so freaking interesting.
And I think it's tied in together, because we all hear about gut health and the second brain, the brain and the gut being connected, which is very true. But if you're in a state of dis-ease where you can't focus, you've got brain fog, everything's falling apart, you're attempting to recover, when you restore that microscopic blood flow, it pulls the heavy metals and the toxins out of the brain appropriately. Now there's a way to do it inappropriately, so you're caused a lot of pain, and we don't want that. You do it appropriately so your body gets rid of it and the brain fog clears. Now you can think and be more active in your listening, and you can make the better choices because you're not struggling with not being able to hold a thought, right? And when you can't hold a thought, our emotions play havoc with us. They wrestle with the heart in a very negative way. And so then you're having a hard time being an attentive, active listener in the other areas that you need to attend to. So it's really, really important to correct your blood flow